Record. All right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to the Mixed Dandelions podcast, where we talk about being mixed, military, and moving on. So today's guest host is Stephanie, and we both went to Kubasaki High School in Okinawa, Japan. So that's how we got started with this. So hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what branch of the military you grew up in, if you have any other affiliations with the military, your racial and or ethnic background, and then also how you self-identify racially and or ethnically.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie Akemi Ramos, previously known as Susie, or that was my maiden name was Susie in high school. And I grew up in the Marine Corps that my father did 23 years.
Oh,
in the Marine Corps. So the majority of my time was spent in Okinawa, Japan. And I identify racially as Okinawan, mainly as I'm half Okinawan. My father's side is Italian and French, but I feel because I have more of a connection to my Okinawan side and the fact that I grew up there, I identify as Okinawan.
Okay. How long did you live in Okinawa?
I lived there for 12 years.
Oh boy.
On and off. And my father actually retired while he was there so that I could continue and stay at Kubasaki so I could graduate. And then also another part of me, my husband was in the Army.
Oh, okay.
And, he actually was stationed in Okinawa, even though he was Army. So.
Is that where you guys met?
No, we met online.
Okay.
But both of our profiles said Okinawa, so we connected immediately. And it was funny, the first time we talked on the phone, I asked him, oh, what school did you go to? And he laughed at me. He was like, no, I didn't go to school that I was stationed at. Okay.
So was he at Fatenma?
No, he was on Buckner, which is a little part of Foster, I guess. They had like a little, he was stationed there.
Okay, how fun. Yeah, I always feel like whenever you see that like Okinawa, like someone's got some kind of connection, it's like you're like, oh no, I want to talk to you now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, okay, now we're connected.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we just moved to Temecula and my next door neighbor was like, oh yeah, I was stationed in Okinawa. And I was like, what? I grew up there. So now we have a connection. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because a lot of people have never heard of it. Like, I remember when we moved back to the States after my dad retired, and like somebody asked me if it was in Ohio, and I was like, no, it's in Japan.
Very far from Ohio.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think that's just one of those things that makes Okinawa so special is that it does like bring that connection. People just love being there and love the island. And so it sort of like brings that connection to people automatically. So that's so fun. Wow, 23 years is a long time. So congratulations to your dad.
Sure.
So, especially in the Marine Corps, I'm sure. Yeah. So what year did you graduate Kubasaki? I forget. I think you were a year or two younger than me.
96.
Okay, yeah, because I was 94. So
right.
Just a couple years.
Yeah.
Fun. So did you do that same thing like Ko and Liza were talking about how like Kubasaki used to have what, 6th grade and up? Did you do that weird like Kubasaki, then Lester, then Kubasaki again?
My class was the last year that got to stay at Kubasaki through junior high and high school. We were the last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I found that interesting. I didn't realize Lester was that new. So, because when we moved there, I think I was a junior in high school. So,
okay.
Interesting. So what other places did you live besides Okinawa?
Well, I was born, actually, funny enough, I was born on an Army base in Georgia. But we only lived there for a couple, like 6 months, and then we moved to Okinawa. But then we went to Camp Pendleton, so Oceanside, California. And then we moved back to Okinawa.
So then most of your memories are from Okinawa.
Yeah. I mean, I remember very little of Camp Pendleton, but yeah, the majority of my time was spent in Okinawa. So that's where all my memories are.
Okay. So what do you think was your favorite aspect about growing up in the military as a Marine Corps brat?
I feel the biggest takeaway, I guess, is just learning to be diverse. You know, I was thinking about this, and it's where you see a lot of cliques in schools, and we had that also at Kubasaki, but I remember it being like you go to lunch and you kind of go to different tables, and you might have
Mhm.
your main table that you would eat at lunch, but everyone kind of mingled with everyone. And I love that because you watch TV shows of American schools and it's very cliquey and you don't converse with other cliques and other
Mm.
groups. And we didn't do that at Kubasaki. We are, it just felt normal, I guess you could say. And so when you do watch those shows or movies, it's kind of like, what? That's how it was here. Or you talk to people who don't even talk to anyone in their high schools anymore, even though they live in the same towns that they grew up in. It's just
Yeah.
very different. So I think my biggest takeaway is just the diversity and being able to kind of be a social butterfly, and be able to just talk and mingle with different, people in different walks of life. So
I completely agree. Like that's something that I take away from growing up in the military, and especially living overseas in Okinawa and at Kubasaki is, and I say the exact same thing. Like you have your little groups, but everybody still knows everybody. Everybody
right.
still hangs out. We were still at the seawall. Everybody was hanging out
Right.
at the games. Like, athletes were hanging out with smokers who were hanging out with, more preppier type kids, I guess. But
Right.
and that was something that was difficult for me when I transitioned after my dad retired and we moved to Arizona, was that it was very difficult for me to get used to those groups.
Right.
And I think this similar thing for my little sister, because she had to go to high school here. So we're in Arizona. So it was tough because we're so used to like, everybody's just friendly. Like people would tell me, oh, you're being a little too friendly or you're not quite fitting in or something. And I'm like, I'm not being too friendly. Yeah. I'm like, or they're like, you're trying too hard to be my friend. And I was like, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm just being friendly. Like I'm just talking to you. I didn't realize it was an issue to talk to somebody outside of my little circle, so to speak, I guess. But no, like I'm so glad someone else sees the same thing because
I value that a lot.
Yeah, it was. And it's a special thing. And I think I think we're privileged and blessed to have been able to be able to experience that. And I think it just makes for better people, better friendships. And
absolutely.
But I completely agree. So where were you what base were you on in Okinawa?
Oh man. So I was on Camp Courtney. And then of course we moved on and off base, but mainly Leicester. So I lived on New Leicester, and then Old Leicester is where we ended my time.
What is New Leicester and Old Leicester?
Okay. So when you get onto Leicester, and the hospital,
the main gate,
or off to the hospital, right? Well, the old hospital. Off to the right, that's what is considered Old Leicester. And then if you go beyond the hospital up into the hill, I guess, area, that's considered New Leicester.
Oh, and I never knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Next time I go back, I'm gonna have to look at that because they still have the building of the old hospital up. It's just like you can tell it's run down.
Most of it's been given back, I think, to the Okinawan.
They haven't done it, at least that part, because we drove by and I was like, oh, that's the building I was born in. And then but the actual building, I think, structure is still there. There's just, I don't know, it didn't look like anything was going on with it yet. So hopefully, but that was a few years ago I went. So hopefully we'll see.
I'm bummed that I just heard about American Village.
What are you bummed about? That it's so
they tore it down.
Well, wait, when?
In the last month, I think.
I'll have to look that up because when I was there a few years ago, it was still up there. We stayed there.
About a month, I think, they started tearing it down.
My gosh. I'm going to have to look that up. That's insane.
I know.
Yeah, because it was a few years. We went, I think, in 2018, 2019. And then, but it was because we stayed at one of the hotels there.
The hotel. I think I heard that a big hotel name bought the whole area. So they're tearing it down to build more
Just
resorts.
make it like a resort thing. Yeah, because there's quite a few hotels over there, but like the
But
Ferris wheel was still there, a
yeah,
mall, and Sega
and
World was around there.
I feel like people stay there because of having that area to go shopping and eating,
Hmm.
and you tear it down now, but I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, that was when we did a few days there because I was like, I want to we'll be centralized, we'll be close to the bases. There's the beach there. So, and we were able to stay like right off of Sunset Beach there. And then, yeah, there's shopping, there's food places, and where we
Yeah,
can just walk to everything right there. So, oh, that
I know.
interesting.
Bummer.
I'm gonna
My
have
husband
to
and I,
research.
my husband and I were supposed to go in April of 2020, so right when the pandemic started,
Right,
and so we had to cancel everything,
right.
obviously. And then I heard that they are opening back up June 6th. So now we're like, we need to get on it and, definitely have our trip out because we haven't gone together. So it'll be nice to go and I can show him where I grew up and the
Hmm.
places I went to as a kid, and he can show me places he went to when he was stationed there. So we're hoping to get back there soon. But so I'm bummed that that's pretty sure it's gone, the American Village, because we were planning to stay there.
Right. Oh, yeah, because it's right outside Camp Foster. So, I mean, I could see because we lived in the Foster Towers. And so
Okay.
it was fun to like just be like, oh, that's where we used to live. And then they've got like this huge mall there now, like a 4-story mall or something behind there. And so have you been back though by yourself or with your family?
I have been back, but it's been almost 20 years.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
a lot has changed.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
A lot has changed. My
Yeah.
mom, she's been back a lot since we
Okay.
left the island in 95-ish, I think. And she's gone back just, because, before when my grandparents were alive, were just like visiting with us and stuff. I've been back twice. And every time she says like things keep changing, like each
Yeah.
time things have changed a little bit
Or
more.
sometimes people will post on the Facebook,
Hmm.
they'll post like when Lisa Zimmerman drove around and did like the video. Did you see that?
I
When
saw
she took
some of it, yeah.
Yeah. And even that, I was like, wow, so much has changed.
I mean, I guess that's good, but I do like, I'm a nostalgic person, so I
Oh,
do
me too.
miss like seeing.
Yeah.
But it's weird because like I remember when I first returned there, and I was with my daughter and she was about 4 or 5 years old. So like as soon as we got off of the airplane, like the smell and everything just hit
Yeah.
me and it brought back memories. And then we took the monorail because we stayed in downtown Naha because my grandparents'
Okay.
house is in Asato in Naha and right off of Kokusai. And so my parents met us at the monorail and it wasn't there when we lived there.
Yeah.
So, but like just seeing certain things as we're like on there coming back, it just sort of like hit me. Like I almost started crying because I was like, it was just like all the memories and the feelings.
It
And
just
I just,
comes back, comes rushing
yes,
back. Yeah.
I had just missed it. And then even like this last time when we went, and this time I brought my son and my husband came too, and he absolutely loved it. And he started like making plans of when we're going back there. And but the same, like even though a lot of it has changed, there's still like that familiar feeling
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
for
So
sure.
you're gonna love it.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So what were some of your favorite things to do on the island?
Oh man, I mean, really just hanging out with my friends, whether that's because I was a lot into sports, soccer and volleyball. So whether that would be going to, play in that regard or just going off base,
Mhm.
Sega World or, we would go watch races and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Take mom and dad's car off, bathe, just hanging out with friends and just getting that experience of living in another country, honestly.
Where were some of your favorite places on the island that you would go hang out at?
And, if we went to Naha, so Kokusai, Tori,
Mm-hmm.
uh, hanging out at Tsunabe, the seawall, all the different parks around there that we would
Mm.
go to drink at. Um, stay there, you know.
We had water and juice, right? And pop.
Exactly.
Of course.
Adult, you know, parent approved beverages. Yes.
Of course. Sure.
Yeah. But I mean, it was fun to hang out on base too. If we went to Kadena, you know, they had so much to do there. The bowling alley, no. So either way, hanging on or off base. But I think the majority of the time hanging off base was the best just because it was so different.
Yeah, I remember the park. So do you remember that one park that had the really big like concrete slide?
Yes.
I'm afraid of heights. And so I think I've only gone down that slide one time and it was like towards the end. I was like, I have to do it because like I've been afraid to do it this whole time. I'm about to leave the island. I've just got to go down at least once.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I wish I had done it before. It was so much fun.
Like, darn it. Why didn't I do this before?
Right.
But even the touristy attractions too were fun to go to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I miss it. I can't wait to go back and then eventually take my kids when I have them.
They'll love it too. My kids like it. They pretend that they didn't, but too, we made it a big family trip, like with my brother and my sisters, and then my nieces and nephews and stuff. So the kids had their cousins to play with, and it was just always like a big group thing. And then our family there, they like both times we went, they set up something like a beach barbecue or something where we would just all like hang out for a whole day, and they played tourist with us. So that was sweet.
That's nice. I loved going island hopping too. That was a lot of fun.
I never did that.
Oh no! Oh,
I'm
all
so
the
jealous.
Ryukyu Islands. That was a lot of fun.
My sister Karen and I, like, we want to do that. I think we just didn't spend enough time while we were there because we were trying to like pack in so much since like my husband and my brother-in-law and my son and stuff, they hadn't gone before, so we were trying to pack in all the touristy stuff. And then we spent like a whole day at or most of the day at Peace Memorial Park, and even that, like, it's beautiful and it's sad, of course. And like I was like, oh, we need to go back because I didn't get a chance to look for like my family members' names on the walls. And I was like, so if you do go and if you haven't, make sure, because then you'll leave and you'll regret not doing it like I did probably. So like I've got all these plans, but we definitely want to go because my cousin always posts these like beautiful pictures on Instagram and stuff. And so my sister and I, like, we really want to try to go island hopping because some of them you can get to on by bridge, right?
Bridge, yes. And then there's some that, you got to get on a boat.
A ferry, yeah. Oh, I'm jealous.
It's a lot of fun. You should definitely do it. That's funny you bring up Peace Memorial Park because when I was living there, I was in the Japanese Girl Scouts.
Okay.
And my father was doing Japanese Boy Scouts. So my leader, her husband was doing the Boy Scout. So my dad would go with him. And every year on New Year's, we went to Peace Park to do a whole thing. You know, they had mochi making and crafts and all these things that you could do at Peace Park. And so that place holds a really special place in my heart. Oh, as we used to go every year. So, but yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So does your dad speak Japanese?
He used to speak more than he does now.
Right.
He's more of a you understand what's being said rather than being able to speak it back.
Right.
But my leader's husband spoke English, so that's how they communicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually easier. Like I can understand a little bit more than I can speak.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
and when you don't use it.
Right. Like that's a big thing. Yeah. That's what I just started this like small group Japanese class. So hopefully I can brush up on it.
I'll come back. Yeah.
So do you speak Japanese at all?
I do. I am losing it, but both my parents live with my husband and I now. And so I'm trying to speak more to her in Japanese so that I can get it back. So I'm getting there. And then, my husband and I are actually adopting a child soon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so that's something we both really want to do, is to teach her Japanese, and then my husband speaks Spanish. So
Oh, okay.
we're going to
Now
teach him a
it's,
lot.
I think I wish, like my kids know just like few words here and there in Japanese. And I wish I had spoken to them more, because then that would have just helped me, because I've forgotten so much of mine. So, but now that like I'm trying to brush up on it, I'm trying to like get that back. And when they're younger, it's easier because you're still teaching them, you know,
Right.
they're sponges, but you're teaching them colors and body parts and
Right.
everything. And so,
And
but
they're
no,
sponges when they're young. So
yes. And that's the time to do that.
yeah.
And I think too, like, even as they get older, it's a skill that it's just going to help them be more competitive in that workplace, because
Sure.
a lot more people, a lot of schools and stuff, they're doing that dual language program with like Spanish and English. And so a lot more kids are going to be growing up bilingual.
Yeah.
So if they could
And
become trilingual.
my husband's family all speak Spanish, so I'm learning it, and I'm getting it. But you know, living in Southern California, that's just something I feel like everyone should really be able to do, is to speak Spanish. So, and then I told my mom she needs to try to only speak Japanese to the kids so that they can
Right.
soak it in more.
And that's going to help a lot. So, oh,
Yeah.
that's so exciting.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, so how do you think living in Okinawa shaped your own mixed race identity?
Just being able to immerse myself into the culture has really helped with my identity. You know, as you already know, it's really hard to identify, you know, you're not white enough, or you're not Japanese enough, and so it's really hard. But I feel that my experience in Okinawa has helped me just more so understand the background, understand the culture better, so that I'm able to, you know, live the life that I want to live for myself. And it just helps me not be as confused, I guess, if that makes sense, because I understand it more, the culture more, and being an American, you know, that's something I think a lot of people grow up with, is you're not white enough, or you're not, you know, black enough, or you're not Asian enough, you know, all the things. And I think it's really hard for someone who is mixed to identify with something or with one of their backgrounds. But I feel that having lived in Okinawa has really shaped me into becoming the person that I am, because I was able to be in that a lot and immerse myself. So
I agree. I kind of feel the same way. And then it's funny, like with that confusion, right? Like people always think, oh, mixed race people are confused. And something that I think just becoming an adult, that I started realizing, it's like, is it really like the individual that's confused, or is it the other people placing that confusion? Because it like confuses them, and we're not fitting so neatly into their little box of being white enough, or American enough, or Japanese enough, or something. So, and then they push that confusion onto like the mixed race individual, in my opinion. And I think that that's something that, like, yeah, even as I didn't realize that until I became an adult. And I mean, probably in the last 10 years or less. And it's like, that's enough. Like, this is who I am. And if it doesn't work for you, I'm sorry, but it works for me.
And that's all that matters, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, if I hadn't lived in Okinawa, maybe it would have been a little bit more difficult. But I think because I did live in Okinawa, and I was able to, you know, see my family there, and I was able to immerse myself in some of those traditions and the culture and the language and the food and everything, I think that did just help me become more, I guess, connected to that Okinawan side of me. And then I think with Okinawa too, it's interesting because there is a difference between being Japanese and Okinawan. And I think with this, there's more movements now with this younger generation that are really trying to show that, yes, Okinawa, although we're part of Japan, Okinawa still has their own languages, cultures, traditions, foods, and everything like that. So it's really helped me to connect and identify with those differences. And so then when you moved from Okinawa to the States, did you move straight from Okinawa to California?
No, I actually went to college in Hawaii.
Okay.
Because I felt that that was a good stepping stone because I had lived so long in Okinawa. I
Mm-hmm.
felt that going to Hawaii would be a good stepping stone to get to the States or the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you remember Lois Yoshimoto
I
or
think
Miles?
my
You
okay,
know
yes.
Miles, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So his younger sister Lois and I were best friends, and she had moved there because that's where her family's from. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, I'll move there too, and this will be a good stepping stone. I'll know somebody already, and so yeah, I moved to Hawaii, and then I moved to California
Okay.
because my parents had moved there for my dad for work, and
Mm-hmm.
then I went to nursing school in New Jersey because my cousin lives out in New Jersey,
Okay.
and there was like a long waiting list here in California, so she's like, come live with me, go to school. So I did that, and then I finished school, and then I moved back to California.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like when you did move? Like as far as like reacclimating yourself, I guess, to that American
I feel,
way of life.
yeah, I feel like it might have been a little easier for me because Hawaii's has so many Okinawans and
Right.
it's so diverse with so many different Asians, so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe it was easier for me than it was for other, friends of mine that went straight to the mainland,
Mm-hmm.
because I was still able to immerse myself in the Okinawan culture and learn
Right.
other, cultures and just living on another island.
Yeah, I think going to move because I think didn't quite a few people even from Kubasaki move to Hawaii as well,
Yes.
like after graduation.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you remember Amy Yoshikawa? She was a year
Yes.
younger than me. So, oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah. So she's there still. And actually, we ended up being roommates at some point when we lived
Okay.
there. So we still keep in touch. She came to my wedding, and actually, my husband and I just went to Hawaii last year, and it was his first time.
Oh,
And I got to show him around, and he loved it. And we saw Amy and her husband, her kids, and her husband, and but like, yeah, the Miles, Lois, they moved there. Um, Ed Sangeling, he was there for a while.
yes. I think he's in Asian, like in Korea or
Yeah, no,
Singapore or
he's in
something.
Singapore.
Yeah.
Oh, Taiwan, Singapore. No, Singapore. He's in Singapore.
He's somewhere over there, I
Yeah,
know. He's so sweet. I
yeah,
miss him.
yeah. I know, me too.
Um, so were you on Oahu then?
Yes.
Yeah, I visited there once. I had a friend, she was stationed at the army barracks. I forgot. Her husband was army, but
Oldfield.
maybe that, yeah, Cofield Barracks, right, is what
Oldfield.
it's called or something. Yeah, she was staying there, so we stayed with them. They lived on the North Shore,
Oh, okay.
and it was like in January or February, so it was when like the waves and like when you
Yeah,
have the
big
huge waves.
waves. Yeah.
And it was beautiful. But
Well,
then it
I
was
got to live. Oh,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
No, we were since they lived on the North Shore and it was literally like right off of the coastline. Like though at night though, the waves just would like hit their doors in
Oh
their
my God.
house. And it was like the craziest thing.
That's a
I'm like,
little
are we
scary.
gonna like, and she's like, oh no, that's they built the houses for this. And then like one time, like they just went out and like her and her husband, they went like spearfishing. They just jumped over the wall of their backyard and like brought home the fish that they made for dinner. And then she got like the
Oh, it's
banana
awesome.
leaves off of the trees. And I was like,
And
see,
that's
it's
the
that island life.
awesome part of, living on Oahu or Okinawa, you get to
Mm-hmm.
live off the land. So I don't remember, or I don't know if you remember the Ainoas, like
Mm-mm.
Arthur and
Oh yes,
he was
yes,
your grade,
yes.
and then Shiggy. So Shiggy and I actually ended up together when we were in Hawaii. We got engaged and
Oh
the whole
wow.
thing. Yes. So I got to experience a real Hawaii because of him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
His family's from Molokai.
Okay.
And so, I mean, literally live off the land, go spearfishing or regular fishing. They would go hunting, crabbing, the whole. So that was a really cool part of living there for me, that I got to immerse myself in that culture because of Shiggy and his family.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a great experience because a lot of people move there and they get just like the city life, or they only
Mm-hmm.
get a little part of it. where I
Yeah.
got to experience a huge part of it. So I definitely appreciated that I got to experience that because I actually lived with his parents. His dad was still in the Marine Corps when I was in college. So I got to live on base with them and, experience that. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Our we just reconnected on Facebook. Like he was one of those like friends you might know kinds of things. So I was like, oh yeah, well, if he doesn't remember me, he doesn't, but I guess he did. So I was like, cool. No, and it's funny. So like I see old pictures of my mom when she was younger living in Okinawa, and I remember, or even when her and my dad had just met, in the late 60s, and they were like cracking up coconuts that they had, or like, yeah, like picking the pineapples. And she said even like fishing, or like my cousin now, like she will post pictures, and she said that like her kids, or her and her friends, they'll just go fishing off of, the seawall, or off of, the jacks, or the coral or something. And she brings home the fish, and they prepare it, and straight from that's something my husband wants to do next time we go there.
So much fun.
He wants to just go fish. Or my dad used to just pitch a tent. He'd go up to the northern part of the island for the weekend or something, pitch a tent on the beach, and then come home with like the most beautiful fish. And I'm like, how can you eat those?
Or like the uni, you can literally go and just get all the uni, like the sea urchin you want. Just crack them open and eat them right there. Oh, yeah, I miss it.
And it's all part of that island life that, like, unless you've lived there, you don't, like, you can't grasp truly. Like, you can hear about it, but you're not really gonna
you don't understand.
Able to quite understand it until you've lived it. So, so let's see. What about getting out of the military? Like, was there a difficulty in you like transitioning out of that military life into a more civilian type life?
Well, I feel like because my dad had retired in Okinawa and let me, finish out school there, and moving to Hawaii, as a stepping stone, and still kind of being there. I mean, I still had my ID card. I think that was the biggest thing, was giving up my ID card at 23.
Right.
And not having, being able to just go on base to the PX or the commissary, or even just your, medical, not having that, backup to go to the military base for medical needs. I think that was probably the hardest part. But having already been like living in America, I think that it was an easier transition, because at that time, I guess when I turned 23, I was already in California. And so I feel like just being in Hawaii had kind of helped me make an easier transition. So coming out of the military, I mean, it wasn't a huge big deal. I think it was more just being able to not go on base if I wanted to, because I didn't have an ID, but my mom and dad still did. So whenever I would be with them, and even now, my husband's a veteran, so they but it's been a little while, but they are allowing them to go on base now to go shopping at the PX commissary. Yeah. So even just with my husband, it's nice we can go on base.
So do you think that, did you live near a military community or a base when you moved to like California or anywhere?
I was in LA. There's an LA Air Force Base. It's not that big, but then we were in Orange County, and now we live in Temecula. So now we're near Camp Pendleton.
Okay. Do you think being around like old friends from Kubasaki, do you think that maybe helped a little bit in your transition, or no?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Just having that connection with them, and having grown up with the same, experiences, definitely, I think, helped with that transition for sure. And that's why it's just mind-boggling. People ask me like, oh, where are you from? And I tell them Okinawa, and they're like, well, the first thing usually is, wow, your English is amazing. I'm like, yeah, I'm American.
Do people think you were going to wear like a kimono and like the wooden clogs? And I've had that, like, oh, we thought you were going to dress differently. And
yeah, like, I'm American. I went to American school. Yeah. But definitely having friends that I'm still hanging out with to this day that have had the same experiences, I think is definitely helped. I mean, we hang out with people who went to Kadena even,
Mhm.
and just having grown up in Okinawa and have that same background and same experiences definitely bonded us. Because back when we were living, in Okinawa, we would never get caught hanging out with someone who went to Kadena. Um, but then I
The
dated one.
Panthers, what? Like
When I was a senior, I dated one, so I don't know. Anyways, but now these are like some of my closest friends. So it's definitely been an experience.
And I think it's that familiarity and the commonality that we have. And again, it's just like part of like what makes Okinawa so special is that we all had that in common. And
Now
I
we have a
think,
bond.
yes, exactly, that it's a lifetime bond, whether you remembered people or didn't remember or had the same, like you still have that. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, I didn't, when we transitioned, we didn't have any, we moved to Arizona, didn't know
Okay.
anybody, 50 miles from Luke Air Force Base.
Wow.
And so my sister and I, whenever we did, we went over to Luke, we drove those 50 miles
Yeah.
just to feel something familiar. I
Yeah.
think we would just hang out at the BX. I needed a haircut. I went there to get my haircut. I'm driving an hour away just to get my haircut because I just like, I think we were just sort of, I don't want to say craving that familiarity, but
You
it
just
was,
feel comfortable.
yes, the
Yeah.
comfort. Yes. It was more comfortable and it was nice to at least be able to get that. But I think, yeah, once I turned 23 and I had to give up that ID card. And
Yeah.
even now, like when I'm around those areas, like when we went back to Okinawa, we always had to get my parents or my sister and her husband worked for APHIS. So we had to make sure that one of them could take us on base, like
Sure.
if we wanted to go on base or go shop in the BX or PX. And even my parents now just moved closer to an air base that we lived at for a few years before Okinawa. And every time I go visit my parents, like we go drive around that base too. And it's or even like we went to an air show and it was like the sound of the jets taking off during the air show. It was all those memories and it was very nostalgic. And it was something familiar and comforting.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely understand that. I mean, my parents won't, when they decide they're moving or they're, going to another area of the country, they have to make sure they're within a good 25-ish miles from a base because I mean they do all of their medical needs there,
right?
Pharmacy, they do all that, so they have to make sure they're near
my base. Parents too, or even my dad had to they were up here for a long time. I think it was maybe when I had one of my kids, because they came up so that my mom could help with when the kids were just born. And my husband was at work and that was like a thing. They had to figure out the whole like prescriptions. How are they going to get their prescription? What's the nearest base? And will they need to get it or will it? And our nearest base is Great Lakes Naval Station. So it's a good hour and a half, depending on Chicago traffic. So it can take a long time. And but yeah, that's always, and it's funny, I guess, like I need to talk to someone who's retired, right? Like discuss those things that they have to like think about and go through with it. But yeah, I remember too, because I had gotten some medications before I moved to Chicago and before I was like, I need to like bulk up because then I'm going to really have to start paying for all of this stuff and figure it out on my own.
Yeah. So. I mean, my parents get a lot of great, benefits from having retired with the Marine Corps. So might as well use them. I mean, that's why they want to be so close to the bases. I don't blame them.
Well, I mean, your dad put 23 years in as a Marine, so I think he's definitely earned those.
Yeah, for sure.
Privileges and benefits, right? And us too for following them for 23 years, 30 years. So, and that's why we're doing this. So people remember the military brat.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, well, let's, I guess, close it up a little bit soon. So what advice would you give to other military brats?
Something that really sticks out, I guess, is hearing when people say, I never left the base. I stayed on base because, whether that be a comfort thing, but if you're gonna move somewhere, I mean, really anywhere, even if it's in America, definitely venture, that you want to immerse yourself in the culture of the area and not feel, come out of your comfort zone, because you never know what you're going to experience, and you don't want to regret not doing something because you didn't feel comfortable. And so I think that would be my biggest advice would be, is to just immerse yourself in whatever culture or area that you live in. Because when you grow up and you're an adult and you don't get to experience that, you're going to regret not having done a lot of those things. So that would be my biggest advice, would be just to immerse yourself.
I think that's great advice too, because that is one of those like benefits of growing up in the military when our parent is moving around, is that we have that opportunity sometimes to be in somewhere new, when we have that opportunity to try something new.
And
So,
make new friends. I mean, I am an only child. And so every time we moved, even when we were in Okinawa, I moved from Courtney to Leicester. I didn't have a built-in friend as a sibling, and so I had to really just put myself out there. And again, that's probably one of my biggest takeaways, is just being able to be that kind of social butterfly. So yeah, that would be my advice, is just immerse yourself, make those friends, gain those experiences, because once you get out into the real world, those things aren't easy to come by. So
that is true. I didn't think about, because so I'm one of 5. So I was always, yes, and I'm the 4th of 5. But I mean, even up until my dad retired and we moved, it was always me and then my little sister. So there was always still somebody, yes, like a built-in friend, like you said. And no matter
those things,
yes, and like if we're annoyed, I mean, yes, it's you have your sibling fights and stuff like that, annoyances, but I still had somebody. And so for an only child, I guess that would be a little bit more.
When I was a lot younger, it was harder for me to, but then I realized, because I was an only child, that I literally had to make new friends if I were moving somewhere new. So it just made me be more social, and so for anyone struggling with that, I would say just get in there and do it, and don't be afraid to just get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So then, as a mixed race person, what kind of advice would you give to another mixed race child, maybe, or person?
Good question. I guess I would say, and again, immersing yourself with with all of the different cultures of your race. So where, Japanese, or Okinawan. So luckily I was able to live there and I could immerse myself that way. Or just being connected with people. So I have a friend who I call my cousin, but she's more of a friend. She's from Okinawa and I grew up with her. She's not in the military, just outside of, and she lives like 10, 15 minutes from me. So we've stayed connected. And I'm able to still get the Okinawan culture. She cooks Okinawan food, and we talk about Okinawa. So that's really helpful. But then I also immerse myself with my Italian culture as well. So I guess for anyone who is mixed, I would say to make sure you're getting all parts of your different races and different cultures, and not maybe, tunnel vision on just one. Being open to experiencing all of the cultures of your person.
Yeah, when I was younger, I always like to say, I've got the best of all of it. So I'm Okinawan, French, and Irish, and I've got the best of all of that. And my children now are, they're Okinawan, French, Irish, and Puerto Rican. So I'm like, we need a little bit of everything.
Everything.
Like, don't just confine yourself to one thing. And then you put American in that with, whatever however people define American culture and traditions. I was like, it's the more the merrier. And now there's so many, I guess, tools and resources to like connect and to learn. So,
and that's something we're experiencing too, as we're trying to adopt, is, answering these questionnaires and what kind of traditions will you bring? Well, my husband's Mexican, so we do tamales on Christmas with the family. We all make them and then we eat them. But then New Year's comes around and we we do a lot of Japanese and Okinawan traditions for New Year's, you know.
Mhm.
And so bringing those cultures to the baby will be very important. But then also, what race is the baby going to be? We need to also bring those to the
Okay,
table.
yeah.
Even if we're not those races, we want to help immerse them with those experiences too, so they don't lose those.
Exactly.
So it's interesting to see that we're potentially going to have a baby that we won't really know or understand or do those traditions, but we're
Mhm.
going to learn, and we're going to learn them, and we're going to help the baby, be immersed in those. So
Well, and then you're also immersing yourself and learning something new and getting, I
yeah,
guess, out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I think learning, it's always great to learn and
absolutely.
experience new things. So that's so great. We'll have to, like, hopefully if I'm still doing this in a couple of years, like get back with you and
Yeah,
updates and like how
yeah, for
you were
sure.
doing with the adoption, and yeah, like just like doing all those traditions and cultures. And
It'll be a fun experience for sure.
yes. Well, congratulations on that
Thank
again.
you.
I think that's so wonderful. It's going to be exciting and terrifying all at the
Oh,
same
I'm
time.
sure.
That's what children are.
We're up for the challenge.
Yes. And then it's funny because like you think you're prepared, but then as soon as that, like, you have that baby in your arms and you actually are like walking to your car, or like you're walking into your house, it just hits you. And
Yeah.
it's like you're now responsible for this little being, and they just look to you for everything, and you love them like just unconditionally. So, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
happy for
I'm
you.
excited.
That's
Thank
so
you.
great. Okay, was there anything else? Like, do you have any questions for me? Or is there anything else you'd
No,
like to
I
add?
thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I think it's wonderful. I hope more people, find your podcast and watch, and I'm just excited to have been a part of it.
Well, thank you so much for reaching out and coming on. And yeah, like if you know anybody else, feel free
Okay,
to
I'll
send
send them
them
your
our
way.
way.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. So thank you again, Stephanie.
Okay. Thank you, Jen.